General nerdery.
Okay, so I'm going to get this joke out of the way first because it's a bad joke, but it jumped in my head and I just can't get it out.
All right.
Are you ready for this?
Yep, I'm ready.
Holy octogenarian, Batman. Robin's turning 80. It's dumb. I hate it, but it wouldn't leave my head.
Hey, if it was me, I would have just ended up making a dick joke, so.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to come everywhere. Anyways, this is General Nerdery. This might be a weird episode, guys. We apologize right now. This is a podcast about liking things.
Yeah, and I'm Tyler.
And I'm Zach.
And we're still doing this remotely, so hopefully you all have been enjoying that, because I think it's been turning out pretty good.
You know, other than random, noises, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being able to see your face, but...
I know, I make those noises sometimes anyway, so... You know.
Just as a regular... Just to, keep the vocal cords in practice.
That's right. We are recording this episode at a weird time compared to normal, so we're skipping the news.
Yeah, we usually have about a week in between. We have 2 days in between our recordings this time, so we'll just have lots of news next time, and just simplicity this time.
That's right.
But in the meantime, what have you been ingesting, Tyler? What media has been hitting you during the dark times here?
Well, there's been nothing like new, I guess. I've just sort of been getting caught up on everything I kind of do all the time anyway. I'd gotten... this entire time I've been active with For Honor, but there was an event that I wanted shit from, so I spent more time on that than normal, and fell behind on everything else, but all this week has just been getting caught up on Battlestar episodes, so that I'm caught up with Battlestar Galacticast, and I'm finished off with Supergirl, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow up until where we're currently at. Getting caught up on Harley Quinn. That's about it.
This is going back to what you were saying earlier. Who do you generally play in For Honor? Because it's Vikings, Knights, and Samurai or something like that?
Right. So my faction is the Vikings.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
And then, but my main... I'm having a little bit of a crisis right now because, a season and a half ago, they changed the way my former main played to the point where I don't enjoy it as much anymore. And
damn you, video game updates.
Kind of just cracking out on all the different fashion options and just leveling up a few different characters to the point where I can get them outfitted the way I want and shit. So.
Nice. Just playing dress up.
Yeah, a lot of playing dress up. It's been fun, but I'm kind of excited to start getting back into other games. I'm still going to be active in For Honor all this year because they're dropping 2 more heroes, but it's starting to fade because I've accomplished most of what I want to accomplish in it. So
yeah.
I've started getting harder into the new Mortal Kombat, and that's been a lot of fun. So,
is that the one they put Hellboy into? I want to say
no, Hellboy was an Injustice 2.
Oh, okay.
And that was also fun, and I did play a lot of that as well. I definitely dig all the NetherRealm Studio stuff, but
I was gonna say it's the same company, right?
Right. So it all plays a lot the same way. It's just that Injustice is PG-13 and involves a lot more superheroes, and Mortal Kombat is super hard R.
Oh, well, here's my surprise that Injustice involves superheroes.
Yeah, right. What about you? What have you been ingesting? I've just been getting caught up on shit. I have nothing new, but...
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I was actually reading this thing about when there's too much going on in the world, sometimes you have trouble starting new things.
Mm-hmm.
Because your brain's just well, nope, too much drama right now. It don't have the energy for something new. So there's been a lot of catch up on my part. I've been keeping up with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We watched quite a bit of Star Trek. We just finished the 5th season of Next Generation and are about to start the 6th season, and I watched, because I'm watching it through with Cece, we watched the first episode of Deep Space Nine, and I forgot how bonkers that first episode is. First season Star Trek is always kind of weird, like no matter what series.
Right.
That one was weird because it was the first time that they were like, there was a Star Trek side series. And then on top of it, they were like, oh, you think you understand Star Trek about these happy people living on like a starship going and exploring space? Well, all of that's wrong now. Let's introduce you to trauma babies everywhere.
I don't think I ever watched any Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, I think, has the best story of them because it's one of the first that has like an overarching plot as opposed to let's go see what's over there. And a lot of science fiction that we enjoy today can trace a lot of what they're able to do to Deep Space Nine. I do not think you could have done the kind of political slow burning story that Battlestar Galactica does all the freaking time. Right. Without Deep Space Nine doing their somewhat ham-fisted attempts to do it first.
I know, it's funny that you brought up Battlestar because Ronald Moore, who was the showrunner on Battlestar, also worked on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Moore was really involved in all of the Star Treks of the 90s, and I think Deep Space Nine... I think that was one of the ones that he was like most involved in. It was that and Ira Stephen Bear. That was like their baby.
Yeah, and the 2004 Battlestar series apparently is kind of where he got to do all the storylines that Star Trek wouldn't let him do.
Yeah. I remember watching that for the first time and I was expecting like, yeah, action, because I didn't really know what Battlestar was, and like I'd seen a little bit of the original series, and it kind of looked like cheap Star Wars. So I was like, yeah, come on, man, give me some knockoff Star Wars, and it was not that.
No, it gets
at all
heavy. It's been a lot of fun going through it lately, but no, it's trauma babies, as you said.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's good at that.
It's kind of his thing. I think he's involved with the Orville now, though, although that might be Brandon Braga. I'm getting my Star Trek creators mixed up. Sci-fi guys.
We'll deep into that later on sometime, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's the point of this episode.
Oh, I guess I did think of one new thing that I started ingesting, but it ties into something else that I've already watched through. I did start listening to Starting Now, which is a podcast that goes episode by episode through HBO's Barry. That
fits with your fondness for Barry.
And it's done by the CinemaSins guys, so it's a lot of fun.
I've done some audiobooks of The Belgariad, which is a series that's not new at all. I've literally read that series like 15 times. It was the series that got it's not the series that got me into fantasy, but it's the like first good fantasy I probably read. Because the series that honestly got me into fantasy was Xanth, and Xanth is fucking terrible in retrospect.
You too?
What?
Xanth is where I started.
I think it's terrible. A lot of people started on it. It's easy to read, and it's dumb.
Right. And
There's some hardcore Xanth fan that's pissed at me now.
I still have a giant love of puns just because of Xanth.
Oh, see, I have a giant hatred of puns, and you can probably trace it back to Xanth.
Yeah, Xanth doesn't age well.
Oh, man, that first book is just wildly misogynistic.
How far did you
Chameleon.
Get?
I got in like 10 books. It was somewhere around... I haven't read most of these since middle school, so Ogre or Nightmare area.
Okay, so you never got to some of the other problematic stuff, like in The Color of Her Panties.
He wrote a book called The Color of Her Panties?
Yes.
God, I hate Piers Anthony.
I think that was book 13
God.
or 14.
I was checking them out of the Washington Middle School library, so I bet they just didn't have that one there. Like,
Yeah, I've read the first 27.
the first, how many did they have?
More than that.
Fair enough. Okay. Wow, that's 27 books worth of puns. You make so much more sense to me now.
Yeah, and they only get more punny as they go on.
Yeah. Well, I guess I read Redwall and like Mossflower books before Xanth, but again, that's yeah.
Anyway, Xanth is also not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, I do not want to just do a deep dive on Xanth. We'll skip that one.
What we are here for is some dick.
Oh,
Let's get to the straight dick.
Yeah, that's gonna be your favorite joke. Let's just get to the dick of it all. We're here to talk about Dick Grayson, aka Robin, aka Nightwing, aka Batman, aka the first Robin, who turned 80 this month. We don't have the actual date because they didn't keep great records about comics back in 1940.
Right. But April 1940.
Yeah, April 1940. We can trace it back that far.
So, as far as this character goes, I know that you're going to have more to say than me. Not that I don't have any love for Dick Grayson, and I will definitely have things to say, but I know that you like the character a lot more. And so I was thinking we could break this down into what still seems like a lot, and that's five sections.
Okay.
First section. Who is Dick Grayson?
Who is Dick Grayson? Okay,
Like,
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Just give us, backstory. Go up until, but right up until he starts to assume some different roles. What lays the groundwork in just about every incarnation of Dick as to who Dick is?
Someday I'll stop laughing when you say the word dick every time, but you just put a little bit of emphasis on it there, bud. Richard Grayson,
And also,
aka
like,
Dick,
creators and stuff.
was created by Bill Finger and technically Bob Kane. I don't know when he was created, but he first premiered in April of 1940 in a really great cover of him jumping through, like, you know those circus things he used to have where they'd like hold up a hoop and there'd be like paper in the middle and they'd jump through it and be like, oh, look at this. Mm-hmm. Batman holding that up, Dick Grayson jumping through. He was created to bring in an appeal to younger audiences because, especially in the 1940s, teen sidekicks were popular, or like teen characters were popular additions to bring in younger readers, which is interesting because these days younger readers have very little patience for teen sidekick characters.
Yeah, that's kind of true, actually. It's like, why the fuck would I read about him when, like, the main person exists?
He was created as a combination of creating someone to mimic, do not mimic Dick Grayson. Someone that would appeal to a younger readership, and he was based off a combination of Batman and Robin Hood specifically, hence the name Robin, and the color scheme fitting the kind of merry men colors, red, green, yellow.
Well, and that first cover appearance of his, isn't even his name done in, like, old-timey looking font and shit?
I would have to look at it again, but I believe that's true. That was pretty common of some of the earlier stuff. Circuses were incredibly popular in the 1930s and 40s and 50s, and that's kind of when they stopped being as popular. But anyways, which is where a lot of the superhero costume comes from. The underwear on the outside, for example, is a replication of strongmen from circuses. Dick Grayson took that a step further, and he was just straight up a circus acrobat.
Right.
Let's take this grim, dark, trauma baby detective Batman, the Shadow knockoff, who we're trying not to have him just be a knockoff anymore, and let's literally give him a circus kid. It brought in a level of cheeriness to Batman that hadn't existed before then. That first issue, I want to say, also is the first appearance of Catwoman, or at least one of the other like big Batman villains. So it was a very, very important first issue.
Mm-hmm.
In universe, Dick Grayson is, as I said, Richard Grayson, son of, I can't think of his dad's name, but his mom's name is Mary Grayson, acrobats at Haley Circus, the Flying Graysons. They refuse to pay, I don't remember if it's them specifically or if it's the circus in general, refuses to pay protection money to a mob boss named Tony Zuko, who then sabotages the trapeze. So when the Flying Graysons go to do their trick, it snaps, the two parents fall to their death. Dick Grayson is introduced as a trauma baby, adopted by other trauma baby, Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently trauma baby is just my term for the day. But it's applicable here.
That's true. And that, see, I said there's 5 sections. That already concludes section 1, because that basically sets up Dick before he becomes everything else.
Yeah.
Because then the next big thing is Dick as Robin.
Okay. From the 1940s to the late 60s, Dick Grayson is always there. It becomes Batman and Robin. They change the world, honestly, during this time. From in-universe perspectives of, oh, we saved the galaxy, to there were congressional hearings about a book that that stated that Batman and Robin were gay.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about it before. I've always wanted a copy, although I think I would just rage while reading it. The Seduction of the Innocent by Professor Wortham had congressional hearings about it because Batman and Robin were gay and Wonder Woman's a lesbian. And like the creators were like, well, half of that is right.
I just realized that I told you earlier in the week, and this is going to interrupt the thoughts of Dick as Robin for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually managed to do a lot of reading this week to try to refresh my brain on some Dick.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into all these different aspects even further of Dick Grayson, I'll actually let you know what I read.
Yeah, hit me.
Yeah, because I knew I could have just went to you and been like, hey, so before we do this episode, I want to get a little bit further boned up on Dick.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Tyler.
And I know that you would have recommended me some stuff, but I mean, not for nothing. I know a few things here or there, and I knew that no matter what I read, it probably wouldn't be a surprise to you with what I'm bringing to the table, but I didn't want to be like, with both of us coming in being like, oh, we covered these 4 specific things or whatever. Other than
Stop hiding the dick, man. Tell me about it.
All right. Robin Year One.
Classic. Chuck Dixon and Marcos Martin.
So that way I could read a little bit of Richard as Robin.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure where I wanted to jump in on some Richard as Nightwing. So I just used that as an opportunity to check something off my reading list anyway, and finally got around to reading the Judas Contract so I could see him become Nightwing.
You know, I've honestly never read that story. Like, I've seen bits of it, but I've never actually read Judas Contract.
Ooh, it's good, but parts of it age not good.
Really poorly.
Very.
Deathstroke's a pedophile in it.
That's almost not as bad as Changeling.
Okay. I'll track down a copy and we'll read that a different day.
Yeah. Then I read The Black Mirror.
Ooh, Black Mirror's super good and weird and good.
So that I could get some Richard as Batman.
That's Scott Snyder and Jock, I think.
Yes.
I have it over there.
And then the one thing that we did kind of want to make sure to touch on, because it kind of started off wanting to do this episode in the first place, is I did read the first 5 issues and the first annual of Grayson.
Awesome.
To get in some Agent 37. So,
Oh, Grayson's so good. It's sitting in front of me.
So, Dick Grayson obviously is the original Robin. What's special about him as Robin now that there's been so many Robins?
I don't think he is not my favorite Robin. He is my favorite characters who have been Robin. Like, does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Dick Grayson kind of defined the role, and everyone else got to figure out who they were in relation to Dick Grayson, in the same way that Robin had to figure out who he was in relation to Batman. The difference is Dick Grayson is healthy.
Mostly.
He deals with trauma for the most part. He tries to grow and be better than he is, while Batman is... Part of Batman has never left Crime Alley. Mm-hmm. He's still that little kid sitting there in front of his dead parents. Dick Grayson definitely misses his parents and is definitely very much that child, but he's been able to move on beyond just that moment. I heard a description once that if you took Batman and Superman, like, as two ideologies or two, like, poles of the DC universe, Dick Grayson would be the person somewhere in the middle, which is what makes him probably the best and most useful.
I could see that.
Because he's not as... I don't want to call Superman naive, but he's not as... idealized... okay, fine, naive. He's not quite as naive as Superman is, but he's not nearly as hard-bitten and grudge-filled as Batman is. And I think the thing that was most valuable for him to Batman and valuable with him as Robin was that he made Batman have a sense of fun as well.
That was going to be the thing that I was going to mostly bring up with him as Robin, is that it felt to... As Robin, he's kind of... It feels weird to say generic, because he's only generic because he defined the role.
Yeah. Because he was the original.
Right. So I don't mean that in a way where I'm putting him down at all. It's just that there's nothing... Like, he set up what that role is. And so, of course, it feels generic because everyone, like you pointed out, everyone else is building off of that in a way.
Well, and for us, we grew up in a time where there have been multiple Robins by the time that we were starting to really kind of pay attention to comic books. So he really is, the generic one. For years, though, it wasn't like he was the Robin.
Mm-hmm. So I would say also for me, like, what I like about him as Robin is his effect on Bruce. He almost brings out the Bruce side more rather than just Batman. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And that's throughout. That's almost throughout all eras too, because even later when he's like more grown up and he's Nightwing, he almost rather than simply being his ward as Robin, he's now someone who Batman can see as a friend at times. He is probably the person Batman trusts most. He is one of the only people who is able to call out Batman. Able to call out Bruce. Like, Batman trusts Alfred implicitly, or as much as Batman is capable of trusting someone implicitly. But Alfred will very rarely be like, hey, you're being an asshole right now, you need to knock it off. Right. And Dick Grayson's the one that will be like, hey, you're being an asshole right now, you need to knock it off. Yeah, exactly. Or he's also the one that's like, we need to make you smile. And that's always a really strong moment when things are going extra bad for Batman, not just, normal I'm Batman bad. Mm-hmm. And Dick Grayson will show up, and it'll usually be like not even planning anything specific, but like, oh, there's a heist going down, the Riddler's up to something, or oh, look, these, small time gangsters.
and they'll go interrupt stuff, and Dick Grayson will just crack jokes at him the whole time until finally he gets Batman to smile about something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a really powerful moment in a good Batman story when that happens, because it's so rare to see Batman smile. Like, no one else can really do that in the same way.
Right. Do you have a favorite Dick as Robin moment?
You know, it's hard because most of the time that Dick Grayson was Robin is during an era of comics that we talked about this in the DC episode, isn't super iconic.
Right.
So I was trying to think about this. I've got one from a really bad movie.
Which really bad movie?
Batman Forever.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. But it's the movie that got me into comic books, so I have a definite affection for that movie.
Hey, me and Chris O'Donnell share a birthday, so...
Poor Chris O'Donnell. I feel like being Robin gained him no favors in life.
No, it didn't. Not at all.
But I don't remember why Batman is being buried alive in sand. I haven't seen that movie in probably 10 years. But Batman's being buried alive in sand by some trap from Two-Face or something. And this is after Dick Grayson has discovered Bruce is Batman, and Val Kilmer Batman has told him to fuck off. And
is it the hand?
Yes. And like his hand bursts through and grabs him and pulls him out, and Batman clearly can't move in that uncomfortable rubber costume that poor Val Kilmer's wearing throughout that whole movie.
That is in a bad movie, that is a really good moment. It would probably be a great moment if they would have cast someone a bit more age appropriate for Robin rather than Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, they always seem to want to age Dick Grayson up a little bit, and if you're going to have Robin, especially if you're going to have him be Robin, let him be Robin. Let him be the boy wonder. Otherwise, it's just kind of weird.
But that is a really good moment, actually.
That movie had a really good movie that it wanted to be and never quite pulled off. Apparently one of the Wayans brothers or something like that was originally going to be Robin in the Tim Burton movies.
Yes.
And he was going to be not Robin at all, basically, other than he called himself Robin and like stole the Batmobile, so pulling a Jason Todd.
Well, they took a crowbar to that idea.
Oof. Oh, God. Okay. And then from... What do you have give me an iconic Robin moment if you have one, and I'll think of...
For me, Robin, I don't... Like I said, like I kind of... So Dick Grayson is also not my favorite Robin, but he's my default Robin in my head.
Fair enough. Mine's Tim Drake, but that's because that's who was Robin when I started reading.
Yeah, if I think Batman and Robin, I immediately think Dick Grayson Robin, not any of the other Robins. Oh, yeah. But I don't know if I have any particular moment, but I always just kind of go back to when I first saw Robin, which would have been in Batman 66. Like, I have a big affinity for Burt Ward Robin.
We really do have to at least give a shout out to Burt Ward. I am not a fan of Batman 66. It's a TV show that I just find painful to watch. Although they did a Batman 66 comic a couple years ago that I was able to, like, I don't know if it was just because I was reading it and so I could do it at my own pace, but I was able to get into it a lot better. But Burt Ward apparently was a heartthrob for a whole lot of young women who were watching Robin the Boy Wonder.
in his little short shorts.
In his little shorty shorts, which is actually kind of appropriate, because one thing that I wasn't sure where we were going to mention it, but we have to, is Dick Grayson's butt is legendary. Women fans love Dick Grayson, and they specifically love his butt.
This is true.
It comes up in Grayson like every 10 pages or so.
There is, especially once the word kind of got out, there's definitely a lot of times where it gets highlighted with him as Nightwing.
Well, with Nightwing, he doesn't have the cape anymore. He doesn't have the full. He's just got like the full bodysuit. So in classic comic book style, everything's tight, skin tight. So in a lot of the illustrations that were coming out, you were seeing a whole lot of look at that Dick Grayson butt, and apparently people did.
So we're already starting to talk about Nightwing, and I guess my favorite Robin moment isn't just a Robin moment, because it's Robin's story arc in Young Justice, where you meet Dick as Robin, and he's still really trying to be Batman. But he wants to...
Yeah, especially in those early episodes.
But he wants to help, and to be the best help, he has to become the leader of the team. And he's not a natural leader in the way that, like, Calderon is.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to learn how to take that responsibility on himself. And as he does, we get to see him mature into the Young Justice's version of Nightwing.
Yeah, because in that first season, he was not ready to lead at all. But they're all like, well, this is inevitable. Like,
well, and especially the early missions, he's trying to, like, lone wolf as much of it as he can.
Yeah, he's trained by Batman. Like, that's what Batman do.
But because he cares, he wants to help. And, truly the best help is for him to step up and become the leader that he does. But
I think I'm going to agree with that, even though I'm not going with Young Justice specifically, but just kind of anytime Dick Grayson leads the Teen Titans or the Titans or whatever version of it, I really like. It really showcases why Dick Grayson, I think, is so good at what he does. Because Batman, as a tactician, should probably lead the Justice League, if we're being honest about it.
Yes.
He's got the brains, he's got the planning. He is so piss poor at people skills, though, that it rarely goes well when Batman leads literally anything. Dick Grayson has people skills, though, so he's got the best of both. He's not as good a tactician as Batman, but he's still trained by Batman. He still has the skills on every level.
Right, he might not be Batman, but he's kind of the next best thing.
Yeah. And as I'm assuming we'll get to in a later stage, he proves he can be Batman too.
Right.
But
between there, we have him as Nightwing.
Oh, yeah. But anytime that Dick Grayson, Robin, Nightwing, whoever, steps up to lead the team, especially when at first they're like, why would you lead the team? You don't have any powers. And then he really quickly shows why he's the best option for it.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen the first season of Titans. I haven't seen the second season of Titans, the live action. I liked that guy as Dick Grayson and as Robin, and I really wanted to see him step up to lead the team in a way that they were showing he could, but he hadn't done it yet by the time that I stopped watching.
And I also need to get completely caught up and don't know if he's done it or not by now either. So I was really enjoying the fact that Titans addresses the fact pretty head on that raising someone to be Robin is an abusive way to raise a child.
Yeah, the concept of Robin is one of those things that quickly falls apart in any form of reality.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they took it a little far in Titans, but I guess if they were going to be like, well, Batman was a shitty father, they decided to really, really lean into Batman was a shitty father. And, most of the 80s and the first half of the 90s was defined by Dick Grayson and Batman trying to deal with the fact that Batman wasn't the best dad in a lot of ways, and was having a whole lot of trouble with the idea that Dick Grayson, even if at the beginning he wasn't quite an adult yet, he wasn't a kid anymore either. And, how do we deal with each other as equals and not as I am the boss and you will do what I say?
So, yeah, that's true. Dick is Nightwing. which is probably where I'm least familiar with him.
See, this is where I became a big fan of Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing in somewhere in the mid-'80s in that series that we were just talking about, the Judas Contract from New Teen Titans.
Tales of the Teen Titans, number 44, put out in July in 1984.
From Marv Wolfman and George Perez. He is wearing what is not the iconic Dick Grayson costume, but is an insane George Perez. George Perez is one of my favorite artists, but his costuming designs are just off the wall, and everything about this costume bleeds through. There's gold bits, there's a huge collar bit, there's I want to say an open chest for part of it.
Yeah, it's like the deep V chest, like a lighter blue collar that's like edged in gold feathers. For the light blue, he has like the matching go-go boots.
It is so 80s. It is the most 80s thing I have possibly ever seen. Part of me loves it, most of me hates it.
I like the novelty of looking back at it and being like, oh yeah, that was the first Nightwing. And in some panels it works.
It is a product of its time.
In most
George
panels...
Perez George Perez could do some pretty good stuff with George Perez designs, but a lot of times they didn't translate well to other artists. I mean, this is the same guy that created the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor for Crisis on Infinite Earths, which you infamously hated the Anti-Monitor design. You're just going to have to look it up. I don't have a good way of describing how deeply weird this costume is when you think of, like, Batman. There's always kind of a level of practicality to it, even compared to the Robin wearing the, like, short shorts. This is a bizarre costume choice.
Which he gets really quickly also in the story. He just sort of like, oh, now I'm going to be Nightwing. Look, now I got a costume. Look, now I have an ice version of the costume.
Yeah, it was very like, well, I guess I'm Batman now, except not Nightwing. Nightwing, the name, is taken from a Kryptonian legend. The idea of there was a vigilante on Krypton who battled injustice, yada, 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 and his deeds were recorded in the Fortress of Solitude. And in Nightwing Year One, who is written by Chuck Dixon, who also wrote Robin Year One and wrote most of the Nightwing stories from the 90s, like really defining who Nightwing was, had a story where he's been fired. Dick Grayson has been fired from being Robin. He's not sure what to do. He goes to see Superman. He goes to see Clark Kent because why not? You know, if you're really mad at Batman and you need advice, Superman's probably the person to go talk to. And to give him perspective, he takes him to the Fortress of Solitude and shows him the story and tells him the name Nightwing. And he's like, oh, I like that. And he steals it.
Well,
so
I did want to point out that that's post-Crisis.
That's true.
Pre-Crisis, there was a Nightwing. That was Superman.
You're right. It was
Superman and Kandor. Him and Jimmy Olsen made
Nightwing and Flamebird.
Yeah, made characters based off of Batman and Robin to perform their heroics. But they couldn't name themselves Batman and Robin because people didn't know what the fuck a bat was or a Robin was.
So they went with Nightwing and Flamebird. The early Nightwing's appearances are a little rough, although you do get a good sense of why Dick Grayson's a good leader, but it's also the first, 5 to 10 years is late 80s, early 90s, which was a weird point for comics anyways. Mm-hmm. Dick Grayson's costume evolves. He loses the big collar. He gets a long ponytail because late 80s, early 90s. It becomes a mostly blue costume with like a gold V shape that looks kind of metallic and like plates. It's a very weird look, but it's not a terrible one. Mm-hmm. forgettable one, I think. And then shortly after becoming Batman briefly for the first time, he gets what is the iconic, as far as I'm concerned, Nightwing costume, which is the all-black bodysuit with the blue V on his chest that folds up into the arms and then, like, blue stripes down the arm. It is... Oh, and the very iconic Nightwing domino mask that's got the points on the top and the bottom. That has become so... Go ahead.
Oh, no. You're... Finish this first. I was
going to saying that look has become so iconic that they keep stealing that shape of domino mask for other Robins.
They do, don't they?
Like, they can't stop themselves. They keep being like, oh, this looks cool. Let's just put it on all of the Robins.
So where I'm mostly familiar with Nightwing is I'm kind of good with him in Injustice. That's about all I have to add is Dick is Nightwing.
This is where I first started noticing who Dick Grayson was. In Batman Forever, when he's trying to pick names before he picks Robin, Nightwing is one of the ones that he drops off. And I was like, that's a cool name. And then found out later on that that's the one he actually
ends up with.
Does adopt. I picked up a Nightwing comic when I was a kid, because just on the strength of Dick Grayson's costume from that point. It looked so cool. And the idea of this, someone trained under Batman, this acrobat trained under Batman, who has gone off and found his own path, was very appealing to me. And this is a point, Dick Grayson as Nightwing, where his strength as a leader really comes into play. During his time as Nightwing, he leads the Teen Titans. He leads the Outsiders at one point, and at one point he leads the Justice League. Like, he's one of the only people to have been on all three of those teams, let alone been in charge of all three of those teams.
I know it's happened multiple times, but what is it during the... I've seen his transition. What I'm getting at is I've seen his transition from Robin to Nightwing. What's the transition from Nightwing to Batman that happens?
Usually it's because Bruce is not available. The first time it happens is a storyline called Batman Prodigal. Basically, during Nightfall, the story where Bane breaks Batman's back, Batman chooses Jean-Paul Valley, also known as Azrael, to become Batman instead of when he's broken. And Nightwing's like, hey, what the fuck? Like... You know, I know we're not as close as we used to be, but come on, man. I've been working with you since 1940. I mean, they don't say it that way, but, like, clearly Dick Grayson is the choice. And that goes terribly wrong. And Bruce Wayne, recovering with the help of Tim Drake and Dick Grayson, has to take down Jean-Paul Valley, but he's still unsure of himself, so he leaves, but he does assign Dick Grayson to be Batman this time, and he explains that the reason he didn't pick him before was he had seen how much work Dick had put into being his own man, that he didn't want to force him to be kind of a copy of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to let Dick be his own man instead of, you know, having to be Batman. And that's really the point where their relationship started to improve. And during that storyline, there's nothing that iconic about it. He's Batman for a little while. He is kind of a Bruce clone during that story, because he's trying very hard for no one to know that he's not the he's not the original Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And then he later takes over again during the Grant Morrison run, where Batman is believed dead, and they've got his psychotic murder assassin son, Damian Wayne.
My favorite Robin.
Well, he's got to be someone's favorite Robin, so you have fun with that. I don't dislike Damian, but...
I like having a Robin that makes Batman seem like the happy-go-lucky one. I just...
That's fair.
I just like having that flip after seeing the other way around for so many years.
And that's what was fun about the Batman and Robin Grant Morrison run, was you had Dick being Batman, and not like, I'm temporarily Batman, but he thought he was just going to be Batman now. And at first he's like, I can't do it. I can't be Bruce. And Alfred's like, well, then don't. Batman is a role, like Hamlet or James Bond. It's your job to take on the role, but you get to give it your own flair. And we get a happier Batman who smiles. It's actually how Two-Face realizes that it's not Bruce. I mean, he didn't know it was Bruce in the first place, but he's like, wait a second. Batman doesn't smile. That's Nightwing.
That's awesome.
So that one was fun because we got to see Dick Grayson become Batman under his own terms as opposed to like a temporary measure. And you see a much healthier Batman, and you get to see again some of the strength of Dick Grayson. Of he can do pretty much everything Batman can do, but he doesn't have to be a grumpy trauma baby the whole time.
Right.
He can maintain relationships with people around him.
That I hadn't read a lot of Dick as Batman, but I had here and there in a couple spots, and then reading through Black Mirror let me think harder about just that all in general. And I really, really like him as Batman. I was telling somebody else earlier this week, like, oh yeah, I just got done reading the storyline and Dick Grayson's Batman. And they're like, oh, that's weird. How was that? And I was like, well, I guess, like, if the world needed saving and Batman was pretty integral to that needing to happen, I think I would prefer it was Bruce. But if I needed saving, I would 100% prefer if it was Dick saving me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, easily. Dick Grayson's the only person who can be Batman who doesn't get subsumed by being Batman.
Yeah.
Like, he's still Dick Grayson through whatever role he plays. He is Dick Grayson first and foremost. Bruce Wayne is Batman. Ooh, the weird alternate futures where Tim Drake takes over. Tim Drake, like, it goes terribly anytime Tim becomes Batman. Jason Todd tried to take over Batman and just became an angry murder man. Like, I mean, he's Jason Todd. He's kind of leaning towards that already.
Right.
But Dick Grayson is the only person who's able to be Batman without it destroying who he is at the same time. And I would rather hang out with Dick Grayson any day of the week over Batman, Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
or Superman, honestly.
Yeah, actually, I'd agree with that too. The other thing, I mean, I guess it's just he can do the same job with different motivations. Bruce tries to save people because he's trying to prevent them from having to feel the things that he felt when he lost his parents.
And in Dick's case, he succeeded. Like, we should really comment on that.
Mm-hmm. When Dick is Batman, he's trying to help people because he helps people. That's part of who he is.
Dick Grayson is kind.
Yes.
He's just kind of a nice, fun-loving guy that wants to help out. He's kind of like the Doctor in that respect. Like that Peter Capaldi quote of like, I'm just a madman in a box traveling through, helping out where I can. Take out the box part, and that's just Dick Grayson right there.
I kind of skipped over it. Do you have a favorite Dick Grayson as Nightwing moment before we jump into any favorites as Batman?
As I was saying before, I think it's kind of any time that Dick Grayson comes back and is like, hey, for old time's sake, let's go fight crime together and I'll make you laugh and make you calm the fuck down and maybe shave and take a shower. I don't have a single moment. It's just fun to have him show up and be like, you guys are all being dicks. Hey, relax, have some fun, stop being mean to each other.
Like I said, my Dick as Nightwing goes super shallow. So mine is as simple as just like when I'd pull off some of the combos in Injustice. They look super cool.
Like, that was amazing.
I love his fucking staff/baton combo. The electricity, everything was fun. So
They talk about it in Grayson, which we'll get to, but Dick describes his own fighting as like freeform jazz, and I really love that description of it's just weird and all over the place and kind of peppy, but can be really, really good. The fact that they've always worked and the fact that he's an acrobat into his fighting style, I always appreciated.
Do you have any favorite Dick as Batman moments?
Really just the first couple volumes of the Batman and Robin Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley run, I think, where he is being fun and he's not being respected by Damian, and Damian keeps trying to show him up, but he's also like, Damian's good and raised by the League of Assassins, but Dick Grayson was raised by Batman and is Dick Grayson. Doesn't matter how good this 13-year-old kid is, he's still not going to get the one-up on Nightwing, Dick Grayson, Batman, whoever. Mm-hmm. And showing Damian up not just as the tough guy, but like also, hey, maybe relax, maybe have some fun. And the sheer absurdity of that run, because they were really... If you liked Batman 66, you would probably like that run, because it leans into some of the crazier kind of drug-inspired aspects of weird, campy Batman, mm-hmm. but mixed with a more serious story.
I'm going to have to read more of that run. I've seen little bits here and there, but never read a good chunk of it.
Grant Morrison's Batman run is just insane. It is some of the weirdest shit I have ever read, but it is... When it's on point, it's really, really good.
Well, that's because Grant Morrison likes drugs.
Yeah. And when it's bad, it's pretty bad. But for the most part, it's a really solid run. I recommend it a lot for people who enjoy Dick Grayson and people who enjoy Batman, because it's different.
I will throw out the caveat that my recent reading has probably influenced my favorite Dick as Batman moment, because it is from the Black Mirror. But
well, that book was super fucking cool. So
I feel like, oh, maybe not. I've never seen anybody bring it up. I feel like it's a little throwaway moment though, but it stood out so much to me. There's a part pretty early on. I think it's the second time he meets up with Commissioner Gordon. And they're just going over a little bit of what they know of the case and what they're trying to do and track down so far. And like the information isn't even that big because it's still pretty early in the storyline. So it's not like you're having any bombs dropped yet. He's still, just laying down some of the early detective work. And Gordon says da 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 da, and he goes and he flips off the light, the bat signal. And he comes out from behind and he just sits there looking for a second. And you see the word balloon come in from off panel, and Dick's asking like, "Hey, Gordon, is there anything wrong? Like what's wrong?" And he just says, "Well, I'm not used to you not disappearing."
Yeah. Because Batman always, like, Gordon turns around and Batman disappears.
But I felt like that says a lot about who he is as Batman as well.
Well, he's a nice boy. He's not just going to disappear mid-sentence. That's rude. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That it's a weird little moment, but it stood out so much to me. As to just how his Batman is comparatively.
He's way more considerate of the people around him, is really what it is.
All right. Dick Grayson as Agent 37. In a row? So, anyway.
What?
I had to throw in the in a row. It's 37.
Okay. So in the storyline Forever Evil that happened a few years back, Dick Grayson is revealed to the world as Nightwing and then quickly seemingly killed. Batman uses this time to convince Grayson to go undercover to take on a spy organization called Spiral, which is at first look kind of like S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's much more kind of like zany 60s James Bond spy organizations from like the Sean Connery movies. And so he becomes as Sean, who did the Legend of Zelda episode with us, and he was very insistent that I covered this episode, or that I covered this Grayson part, as he becomes non-misogynistic James Bond, is the plot. What if Dick Grayson became James Bond and wasn't a sexist pig?
Which is how I had heard you guys describe it to me. And I'm not going to say that that's not accurate, because it is.
Oh, yeah.
But it came off to me with a slightly different twist.
Okay,
To me, it was a lot more like the Kingsman minus the anal jokes.
Okay, so non-misogynistic Kingsman, I would also roll with that.
Just because I feel like his role within Spiral and the way he's also coming into the world is a lot more reminiscent of, what's his name? Eggsy? Is that his name?
Eggsy, yeah.
Rather than like what we think of as Bond at any time, really.
That's true. He is kind of the more down-to-earth outsider that's brought into the crazy spy organization. And this is a lot of fun because you really do get to see the full depths of his skill set at this point. He's working with the most dangerous spies in the world and making fun of them the whole time while playing at their level or better. They keep trying to give him crap for refusing to shoot people, and he's like, I'm really good with a gun. I just don't.
Yeah.
At one point, he describes himself as the spy who throws his gun. And they're like, no, you shouldn't do that. And he's like, I've already done it.
Well, and he throws his gun in the first issue and thinks nobody has the chance to see the cool thing he did by bouncing it off of the moving rail right into the dude's head. But you see Midnighter all the way, and he's like, yeah, that was cool.
Midnighter, and I mean, I've recommended the Midnighter series that spun off from Grayson twice now. My favorite two things of Grayson, the general one is just anytime Dick Grayson and Midnighter are flirting with each other, usually while fighting or being horrible to each other. Because Midnighter is kind of angry gay Batman, and so of course someone like Dick Grayson with his infamously good-looking butt is going to be very interesting to Midnighter. And it kind of drives home one of the things I like. Dick Grayson will flirt with anybody.
Yeah.
He's always portrayed as hetero. That's fine. That's whatever. But he's not uncomfortable with Midnighter hitting on him. He'll play back at it, being like, you're right. I am very attractive. This is fair.
There's one point where he tells Matron, Helena Bertinelli, Huntress, that he's the pretty one.
Yeah. He's very aware of it. That's like, as I said, his butt comes up constantly throughout the history of Nightwing in particular. That series ramps that up to 11. He's part of his undercover is being like a gym teacher at a private girls academy. And
see, I'm just getting to all of that. Like I'm 6 issues in, and where I'm at, he's about to have his first major fight with Midnighter. They've had 2 issues where they've encountered each other so far. And I just got past where the girls chased him all around the campus. And the girls were fucking hilarious too.
They name his butt. Like the specific cheeks, to the point I'm like, part of me is like, this is kind of weird, but it was also pretty funny and treated as pretty harmless. They did at least in my opinion, they did a pretty good job of like, we're going to make jokes about sex and stuff, but we're not going to be creepy about it. And I think one thing that helped in Grayson is they did it both ways.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, oh, look at the boobs. It was like, oh, look at the sexy people.
I'm really enjoying Grayson, and I'm going to keep reading it. I do have to say I'm more excited just to see shit happen to Spiral, because I really don't like them.
No. Watching everything go bad in Spiral is really fun. When he goes back to being Nightwing is a really powerful moment too. But
I'm also appreciating it because it means I'm finally reading some Tom King, which I have not yet.
Tom King's a weird writer, but he's another one that when he's on point, he's really good. And Grayson's probably his work that I've enjoyed the most. The only part of Grayson I didn't really care for was the Robin War crossover, which was great an idea, but it didn't, I don't know, it never really landed. It's fine. It's forgettable, which is too bad because the rest of the series was really good. So fine, but forgettable was jarring.
Is there any of Dick's relationships? Who do you ship him with?
Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, every time.
That's what I was going to go for too, but I mean, he is one of the characters that is sort of allowed to date around at times, so.
Yep. Him and Starfire are a really popular pairing, especially to people who watched the cartoon, the Teen Titans cartoon, before they watched, or before they read any of the comic books. A friend in high school and I used to just get in really angry fights over this. She was strongly Starfire, and I was very pro Batgirl. Part of it because he was dating Oracle, because that's who she was at the time when I first started reading. So that was like the first association. But I just think they're a better balance for each other. She's someone that gets his world a little better, and someone who I thought was better at holding his feet to the fire than Starfire was. Like, in the same way that he can tell Bruce, stop it, you're being a dick. Batgirl's the one that can tell that to Dick Grayson.
I enjoy that a lot of the times that even when they're not together, they have that relationship still too.
Yeah,
I
they're
love
extremely
her
close.
putting him in his place, like you just pointed out.
They're kind of, because I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, Diana Troy and Will Riker. Like, they always have some chemistry going on. Even when they're not dating, they're very close as people who have a lot of history together. And they'll call each other out when they need calling out. And they'll give affection, even if it's like just a hug, when they need it.
Is there anything about Dick that I haven't brought up? Because I was sort of guiding it along, but I'm sure you also have other thoughts. Is there anything we didn't get a chance to hit that I'm just not thinking of right now?
The main thing that we need to hit that I promised Sean that I would mention was there's a scene in volume 4 of Grayson where him and a guy named Tiger, who is one of the, or no, not Tiger, something Tiger, I don't know, Tiger isn't his name, who is another one of the spies, have turned against Spiral, and they're just taking out the other agents. And Dick Grayson just goes, "It's time for a theme song." Tiger's like, "No, please don't do that." And the next 3 pages is just like splash pages of those two fighting various spies while Dick Grayson sings a song about himself to the James Bond theme.
Yeah.
So it keeps being like, Agent 37, womp, womp, womp. And the specific line is, he's the spy with the face of swirls. He gets all the girls, but he calls them women because girls, though it fits the rhyme scheme, is kind of misogynistic and doesn't show proper respect for the other equal sex. Agent 37, womp, womp, womp. And I have never found a moment that sums up Dick Grayson as well as that moment.
I'm curious, and this is going into super minutia on just like that storyline, but do you know if there was any reason why they chose Agent 37 for him? Is that an Easter egg of any kind, or did they just pull a fucking number out of thin air?
Not that I know of, but it's entirely possible.
I just, I always kind of wonder about that sometimes. Whenever somebody is given a number in something like this, it's usually some sort of callback, so.
I assume the 7 is in there to get the the James Bond reference, because they really did market that series as like James Bond but Dick Grayson. Mm-hmm. And then I assume I'm going to go with the 30 part being just so it's not like Agent 7, like just So MGM's lawyers aren't like knocking on their door.
What was that? Oh, I think that's wrong. I was gonna say what was his number in Get Smart, but that's Agent 86, so never mind.
I only ever saw the Steve Carell Get Smart movie, and it was not very good. So
Oh, you need to go back and watch the series. Don Adams is something special.
that's classic. Yeah, I've heard great things.
That's another one of those weird series I grew up with because limited cable options in a small town.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try it, and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Just since we're thinking of spy shows, comics, movies now.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a... I mean, maybe there isn't. Maybe they just pulled a number out of thin air. I was just curious about that when I was reading it.
Yeah, I don't know. Any last thoughts on Dick Grayson, though? We've kind of stumbled through the 5 different roles of Dick Grayson.
The big ones. The only other thing that like really ever stood out to me from Mr. Grayson was just the use of his family's lineage and just the name Grayson and the way everything unfolded in the Court of Owls storyline, even though that's a lot more Batman-centric.
Yeah, it turns out that his family was like, he was supposed to be raised to be a Talon for the Court of Owls, so a hitman, basically. Mm-hmm. He was the Gray Son. I always thought that was a little extra, but it was a really cool moment when it happened at the same time.
Yeah, that was more it. I was like, Gray Son, okay. Like you said, extra, but fuck, this is cool. And then especially once you see Talons, too, you're like, fuck, they're cool. Like...
In Nightwing Rebirth, which is right after the series Grayson ends, it is Nightwing. The first part of it is Nightwing trying to take down the Court of Owls. Mm. And not just like Batman versus the Court, but Nightwing versus the Court on a much more personal front. And it's a really good story. So
I also really want to read that just because of how much I enjoy kind of everything having to do with the Court of Owls, to be honest.
Oh, it's a great setup. I definitely recommend it. My last thoughts, I guess, on Nightwing is I'm going to make fun of a most recent decision they did. They did Nightwing Rebirth. It was doing great. It got great numbers. Grayson is some of the best recommendations that they had. Grayson isn't just written by Tom King. It's Tom King and Tim Seeley. And then Tim Seeley took over Nightwing and Tom King left for Batman. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, they decided that they needed to wildly change up Dick Grayson in comic books. Partly because they got tired of all of the dick jokes. And part of the reason why Grayson works is because they lean into it. They're just like, let's just own this. Mm-hmm. So they shoot Nightwing in the head. They give him amnesia. And then they make him an angry, edgy Jason Todd wannabe.
Oh.
He goes by Gray for a while.
Of course he does.
And really quickly, people are like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like, we're not doing that. And they later changed it to Richard, and there's a whole lot of like the entire Bat family being like, no, we need Dick Grayson back. He's the only thing that holds us together. We're all assholes. Come on, man. Please, we desperately need Dick Grayson. And he's like, no, I don't know who that is. I'm Richard now. I'm not Dick. I'm not Nightwing. And they're like, oh, shut up. And it was... They finally countered it of like, it was a plot by the Court of Owls, but it was a good year or two of DC trying really hard to make this a thing, and everyone who likes Dick Grayson being like, you just took out every reason why I like this character.
Yeah.
If I wanted dark, edgy Robin, I would literally just go read the Jason Todd series that you publish.
Yeah,
give
me back my dick. They have a Robin for that, so...
They've got 2. They've got Damian as well.
Yeah. Okay, so this... I guess I do have one more question for you just to get your take on it. It pertains a little bit more to the role of Robin in general, but as he was the original Robin. What do you feel about the more... Obviously, this wasn't in mind when they first created the character, but what do you feel about the more modern idea of the role of Robin... potentially being Batman's failsafe against himself?
Oh, that's not the one where I thought you were going with it. I actually really like that one. That he's like, I obviously need someone to keep me off the edge, and that's what Robin is there for. And someone to take me down if we need to. It's the same reason that Superman gave Batman the kryptonite. I think most good superheroes have set up a failsafe of, here's the person that will call me out when I need calling out. Here's the person who will stop me if I ever need stopping.
Where did you think I was going?
I like the idea that Robin is a distraction for Batman to be sneaky, and that's why he wears bright colors.
Oh.
I've heard it proposed seriously and jokingly, and it's horrifying if you think about it at all.
I think it's a great joke.
Batman's like, hey, kid, put on this bright yellow cape and go punch that. Okay, cool. You see how they're all pointing guns at you? Now I'm going to sneak up behind them. It's horrifying, but it kind of works in its own way. Dick Grayson is the only Robin that works with, because he's a trained acrobat. He's a trained, like,
right.
Jason Todd
that doesn't work
was
with.
a car thief, and Tim Drake was a computer nerd. Like, it does not go the same way.
Yeah, I think it's a funny joke. If anyone actually tries to propose that seriously, I'd probably laugh in their face.
Yeah. Have you ever read texts from superheroes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. If you somehow have not read texts from superheroes, absolutely check them out. The version of Batman from that is just obsessively collecting Robins because he's going through them at an astounding rate is just my favorite. It is the best joke Batman I think I've ever seen. Point is, I at least very much like Dick Grayson. You at least enjoy Dick Grayson. People should read Grayson in particular, but almost anything with the character, you are going to have an enjoyable time. Watch Young Justice. His growth in that series is really incredible.
Was it in... Okay, sorry. I'm going to back it up about 2 minutes.
Back it up about 2 minutes.
Was it in Grayson where they talked about Batman putting him in the bright colors? I just read something about that.
It might have come up in that one. It's come up enough times that I don't really remember specifically like where I first read that, but I remember hearing about that idea as far back as like middle school.
Like, because it's either in Grayson or it's in the Black Mirror, where there's a scene where there's a flashback to Dick having a conversation in the Batcave with Batman, and Batman's like, you're going out in these colors. Like, I go out in the dark, but I'm not making your costume dark, because if you go out and you learn only in the dark and that's taken away from you, then you're basically crippled. You want your enemies to know where you're coming from so you can fight them head on, and you have to earn the dark.
That sounds very Scott Snyder, so I'm going to guess that's Black Mirror, but I'm not sure.
I did kind of like that idea of like, no, because I'm not going to set you up to fail if you ever have to fight without the dark on your side.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he did earn the dark. I mean, his costume is mostly black now, yet he still manages to not be a dick.
Yeah.
While being a dick.
All right, that's about all I have.
This
for
entire
Grayson,
podcast, this is why DC did that name change. It didn't work.
No.
It just made me call him Dick with all the more emphasis, but I see their point now, at least. Any recommendations this week?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I got a recommendation. With everything going on, most things are canceled in some way. And if you're like me, who beyond just normal nerdy things, also enjoys the sports world and are missing that, even though some of the stuff, like what I'm missing, wouldn't even have come back at this point anyway, but that's beyond. I'm going to recommend Blood Bowl 2 to combine football with fantasy craziness.
Yeah, that's the like Warhammer football game, right?
Right. I mean, I kind of recommend Blood Bowl in general, but they have, like video game versions now. So you don't have to deal with setting it up and doing all the roles. All that is a lot of fun, but sometimes you just need something super streamlined that you just want to sit down and do.
Yeah.
like right after work without having to set shit up. Blood Bowl 2 is, yeah, football mixed with the Warhammer fantasy races. And it goes a lot more back to the, like, more old school Warhammer, where there's a lot more comedy. Like, 150% more comedy, if not more.
Yeah, back when they were like, hey, this should be fun and not just grimdark.
I want to really quick shout out one of my best friends growing up, my boy Angus. Me and him used to play Blood Bowl back in the day because his brothers, his older brothers, were, now looking back on it, bigger nerds than I realized.
It's always fun.
And they had, I think it was Blood Bowl 3rd edition, something like that. We would set it up, try to play it. It was super complicated for a couple 7-year-olds. So I don't know if we ever played it completely right. And we would streamline some things just to make it easier on us. Some things I think we accidentally streamlined just because we didn't completely understand the sheer amount of rules and rolling that goes on behind the scenes of that. But the video game version is basically all the shit that me and him would streamline to make the game go faster and easier.
Perfect. Classic.
It sounds weird playing football in a turn-based system. And that it sounds like that would be not doable at all, but they change up the rules enough so that although it's still recognizable as football, like, it works with turns. And as
it's football with, so it's turn-based football with orcs and murder.
Yeah, lots of murder. Lots of orcs.
Right, I don't like football, and even that sounds good.
Although I tend to play chaos a bit more often myself. Or undead. Undead is a lot of fun too. But also like elves, and there's minotaurs and lizard people and dwarves and skaven and vampires. I don't know. Like I said, I'm recommending it. I'm having a hard time not sitting here and spending like 10 minutes explaining how it works, because turn-based football, when you just say that phrase, shouldn't work. Instead, I'll just say, like, look up a video or something, so I'm not sitting here trying to explain it for like 10 minutes. But
try it out. Find out for yourself. Apparently it works. You're not the only person that's even recommended it to me, so obviously something's going right.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of turn-based strategy, but you can still get your football kick in, and you can get your murdery fantasy kick in too. So,
attaboy.
With a lot of humor mixed in, a lot. So,
yours sounds more fun than mine, although mine was still a really interesting read. I'm going with The Secret History of the Mongol Queens: How the Daughters of Genghis Khan Rescued His Empire by Jack Weatherford.
You told me about this one time, I think, before we even started this podcast.
I really enjoyed this book. I'm a big fan of the Mongols. It comes up in The Art of Wargaming all the freaking time. The Mongols are one of the most interesting empires ever, although I am not... historians are either super rosy about Genghis Khan being like, he was an amazing, perfect man. Other people being like, he was a monster. I'm somewhere in between. A lot of good things happened because of Genghis Khan, but I'm not going to say like, oh, he was trying to make the world better. He was trying to make himself and his tribe crazy rich. And he succeeded.
I myself also extremely love Mongol history. And I will once again shout out Angus to that too for making me play Genghis Khan 2, Clan of the White Wolf on Sega Genesis back in the day. So
nice. This was about Mongol history. If you read it, especially as it was just written out, like if you read The Secret History of the Mongols, women aren't really mentioned that much. But if you do research into Mongol history, really incredible, amazing women are giants in it. If according to this guy, that if you look into it, they've clearly been cut out of history, and this was his attempt to look back and find the history of these amazing Mongol women that were erased. It is a very fascinating read. This guy, I think, is a little too far up Genghis Khan's ass sometime, but it's worth it for just the sheer fascination of this. It is nonfiction. It is a little plodding at times, like a lot of nonfiction historical writing is, but I highly recommend it if that's your thing.
I don't know how soon I'll get to it just based on my own personal reading lists, but that is something I will get to based on my own interest in the Mongols. So,
oh yeah,
because yeah, it wasn't just Genghis Khan 2, Clan of the White Wolf. Like, that just spurred something else in me, and I've done a lot of reading myself, so a lot of interesting stuff. But like you said, you hardly ever hear anything about the women in the Mongol Empire, and so that makes me more excited to learn about something I haven't got to learn about, rather than just...
Oh yeah, that's why I picked it up.
Rather than just hearing, you know, how much land Jeeb the Arrow conquered for the 500th time.
Which is super cool still.
Yes.
And before you read that, you should like, subscribe, check out our various podcasts on our network.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Yeah, hit subscribe however you're listening to this right now, because that would be super cool, and it makes sure that you keep hearing these episodes whenever they come out. Also, like you said, over on the network, you can go over to the website, www.generalnerdcast.com, and check out all of our back catalog. Links up at the top will show you that we are part of the Earworm Network. Go to all the other shows through there pretty easily. Listen to me talk about horror movies over on Fried Squirms. Zach, you mentioned Mongols come up on the Art of Wargaming.
We're actually starting our new book, I believe, next week.
Ooh, that's exciting too. And
Frederick
so you can,
the Great's something to his generals. I don't know.
You can hear them talk about wargaming mixed with war.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, wargaming and war. That sums it up.
You can always contact us through the website or by emailing us generalnerderypodcast@gmail.com. If you want to take a look, or if you want to keep up to date on all the shows across the network, you can always just head to www.earworm.com. That is EARVVYRM.com. And if there's any way for you to leave a review rather than like just rating us, however you're listening to us, that super helps us get into the algorithm and just spreads the word. So that would also be awesome.
Also, it just helps us get better.
Yeah.
Reviews will tell us what we're doing well and what we're doing badly. And Lord knows we're doing a lot of both of those.
Yeah, so hit us up. We would love to hear from you, however you decide to do it, so we know how we're doing. Please.
Yeah. In the meantime, we will see you next week with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Which you've seen. I have not seen. You're very excited for this one.
Short preview of next week's episode. The first time I watched it, it made me cry thrice.
Thrice. In the meantime, I'm Zach.
I'm Tyler.
Dismissed.